Hey everyone, welcome. I'm so glad to be with you today. I am Dr. Pavani Moray. I'm here on behalf of Wellcelium, where we're spreading pleasure on purpose, and I'm with Barbara Carrellas. And Barbara is an erotic role model and shero of mine, and she's a modern erotic mystic. She is the founder of Urban Tantra and has led thousands and thousands of people to experience heightened erotic states of ecstasy. And she's going to be talking with us today about that. She's teaching a class for us that's starting here in June for Wellcelium. And so this is a chance for you to get to know her a little bit. And just wanting to welcome you, Barbara. So glad to be with you.
Oh, so glad to be here and so happy to be one of the founding facilitators at Wellcelium.
We are
Wellcelium?
Wellcelium. Yeah, we're delighted to have
Wellcelium.
you. It's super special. I mean, I think you inspire so many people for so long, and it's just really an honor. So I want to dive in with really talking about ecstasy. Of when you say that, what does that mean? What is ecstasy?
Well, to me, ecstasy isn't just a whole lot of pleasure. It's own very specific, peculiar, and delightful organism. Ecstasy is that feeling you get when the universe picks you up by the ankles, turns you upside down, swirls you around a bit, and then puts you back on the ground. And everything's different. Something profound has happened, but you're not sure what. The ground feels a little different, the colors look different, and all the possibilities have been reordered. Ecstasy might be extremely pleasurable, or it might be like I call them gigglegasms. It might become in the form of a gigglegasm, and you laugh so hard that you think, my God, is it possible to die of laughter? And then your body takes a breath and you're fine again. More than fine. You kind of feel like that afterglow of an orgasm, kind of altered, dizzy fine. But there can also be crygasms. And what's really important about something like a crygasm or even an angergasm is the gasm part exists equally with the sadness or the anger. And in fact, if a really good crygasm leaves you feeling cleansed and empty and pure and ready to start again. Same with an angergasm. So ecstasy has a huge place during challenging times in terms of processing difficult, challenging moments or huge, unfathomable situations, and bringing us back to ourselves. Yeah, ecstasy.
Yeah, that's great. I think I'm getting it, that it's a space of a really kind of a raw space where there is emotion and there's also physical sensation, and it's also transcendent. Yeah, am I getting
The
it?
transcendent part's really important because there are also ecstatic experiences that are incredibly quiet. I remember one I had in the midst of this wild 200-person community ecstatic dance. And I sat down in the middle of it, and it felt like I'd stepped into complete no mind inner peace. I could hear everything around me. I hadn't left my body or left the room, but I just sat there and I could feel this really huge grin on my face, and I felt absolutely wonderful, and I could have stayed there forever. And to this day, that blissgasm, I was in it for long enough. Physically, I was probably in it for 45 minutes. I can, to this day, summon that space when I need to go back there, which is super useful, especially in times like these.
Yeah, I mean, it really begets this next question, which is, why does ecstasy matter? And especially, why does it matter right now?
Because It's the resilient edge of resistance again. The resilient edge of resistance is when a certain amount of pressure is applied and what's being pressurized pushes back just the right amount. And you meet in this perfect resilient edge. Now, what that means physically is that you wind up feeling held and supported enough to take a risk even. Emotionally, it means the same thing. So in these times where the pressure on us psychically, mentally, physically is so great, we need a psychic, emotional, physical system that can meet at a resilient edge where we're not being shoved over or unsupported. And ecstatic experiences help us meet that resilient edge. And that sounds esoteric, but it's really very embodied.
It sounds very practical.
Practical, exactly. Because I only do practical, including practical mystical. And in the course, I'll be offering Wellcelium how to have ecstatic experiences in challenging times. I very specifically didn't say how to live an ecstatic life, because actually ecstasy comes in bite-sized chunks that are manageable for us. Things we can do, things we can create for ourselves or recreate for ourselves. And just even a moment of little bliss worm wiggling up your back and kind of bursting at the top of your head when you see some magnificent sunset can be enough to reset the rest of your week. I know that sounds weird, but in the course, I'll explain why that's true and how you can actually make it happen on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm actually hearing a couple of things here. I'm hearing one, that it's a practicable skill, right? We don't just have to wait for ecstasy to hit us, right? Because if we wait, like we may have one or two of those moments in our lives, but what I'm hearing you say is that there's a map of how to get there. There's practices that you can do that support those states in coming more readily, right, through practice.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing I'm hearing. And the second thing I'm hearing is you're talking about ecstasy as an antidote to disassociation, to shame, to numbing, to stress, to pressure, that there's something that's very, creates a lot of resilience when we're practicing ecstasy, especially in challenging times. Yeah. Exactly.
And yes, I've led many courses that were ecstasy for ecstasy's sake or ecstatic experience for healing, but very much so, this is about resilience. This is about, I first learned how to create ecstatic experience on a regular basis during the AIDS crisis in the 80s, which was a similar time of massive quantities of death, helplessness on the parts of large communities, and just some altogether really tough times. And I think it certainly is learning these skills. Learning these skills is certainly what helped me get through those days. And this is a different flavor pandemic than AIDS, make no mistake about it, but certain essential things about the times are quite similar. And many of the same techniques which I've honed and expanded upon in all the years since the height of the AIDS crisis, I'm bringing to bear for these times, and including being able to offer it online.
Something I have noticed, and I'm hoping that you'll speak to, is that I've been quite well through the pandemic, but I've been hesitant to say that. When people ask, how are you? I often feel like, oh, I'm all right. And, kind of in spite of everything, I'm okay. Like I really downplay, hey, actually, I'm doing okay. I'm doing great. I'm having a lot of pleasure in my life. And I feel guilty about experiencing pleasure when I know that loved ones are suffering, when I know that people are dying. And I'm hearing you say that, oh, it's a medicine, it's an important medicine, it's a corrective to this time. And I'm also just wondering if you could speak to the pleasure guilt.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. People are apologizing, saying, actually, I've been really creative, you know, and um, it's possible to hold the fact that you're living in potentially extraordinarily sad times, and also know that pleasure is your antidote. Pleasure is your it's part of your immune system care practice. People, there's, you can open your email at, program and are flooded with how to take care of yourself in these times, how to boost your immune system, how to make sure you can stay healthy through this. One of the things that is most helpful mentally, physically, and spiritually is some form of pleasure, whatever your definition of pleasure is. It could be sex, it could be nature walks, it could be chocolate, exquisite food, it could be breath orgasms, and yes, we'll have one of those in the class too. It could be anything that makes you feel good. It's just really that simple. And if you can also mix feeling good with feeling, period. Often when we are in a heightened erotic state, or can be just masturbating at home, it doesn't have to be a full-on orgy, believe me, you will let go of painful emotions on your way to a pleasurable experience like an orgasm. It's a tension release system. Pleasure helps us relax and see the good in things, because no matter how many horrible things happen on any given day, there's actually more good things happening. And people doing, balanced newscasts are showing us, look at what this lovely group of people did for the person who couldn't have a birthday party or whatever. There's little miracles going on constantly through this. And when we're in a state of accepting and receiving and creating pleasure, we are able to contribute to the pleasure part of this experience, because nature is always in a balance. If there's tragedy, there's also success and happiness and love.
It makes me think that those states of ecstasy and grief, rage, sadness, despair, that they're not actually that far apart. And when I hear you talk about it, like what comes to mind is like, oh, if I am practicing in this way, if I'm practicing ecstasy, it's kind of like wearing a mask. It's kind of like doing my part to support the collective wellness. My personal wellness supports the collective wellness. Is that kind of the direction?
Yeah, exactly. You show up differently when you're coming from a pleasure nurtured place. You just do. You show up in the community differently. You show up in your family differently. You show up in your relationship differently. It is like wearing a mask. It's for them as much as it is for you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. The last thing I want to ask you about is, who is this for? I know early in my process of becoming an erotic mystic that I felt that it was for other people, that certain people were blessed or chosen, or somehow some people got to have erotic freedom and I didn't. And I just wonder if you would, because when I hear the how to create ecstatic experiences title, I think, oh, maybe that's for other people, not for me. And I just wonder if you could speak to, I mean, you've taught thousands and thousands of people. Who is this for?
It reminds me of doing in-person workshops, introductory ones, and going around the circle and saying, what was your intention when you signed up for this? I have no idea why I'm here. I was curious. And so if you have no idea why you're even watching this and considering this workshop, it's probably for you. And if you're thinking, this is for other people, it's not for me because I'm too fill in the blank to ever have an experience like this, or my circumstances are such that I can't have an experience like this, it's probably for you. Because it's such a human ecstatic experiences are absolutely universally available. And even if you have to reach back to when you were 2 years old and saw somebody you loved you hadn't seen for a while walk through the door and go back to that place, you can relate to what an ecstatic experience is. And it's for absolutely everybody, every body type, every spiritual persuasion, no matter your age or where you live or in what community or what race or what ability, because we'll be shaping everything so that anyone can have an experience, a taste of an ecstatic experience. And also in the course, you don't have to, if you're in a situation where you go, I maybe can't do that exercise right now, you're welcome to just learn it in the course, and then you can take it home or out into a field or any place you want and practice it on your own later. We're also set up for that. So don't think that because you're living with 6 roommates, this probably wouldn't be the time for this, because it is. Trust me.
That's great. Thank you. I mean, it makes me think, okay, this is an expansive space. Like, you are inviting folks into an expansive container. And that's always, a little bit like, ooh, like it can be a little bit scary or nervous or edgy for folks. And yeah, just wanting to reassure folks that that's okay. It's okay to be a little bit like, yeah, no matter kind of where you're coming from. I feel like I've been in your containers, and I know that you create a really welcoming space for people wherever they are.
Yeah, whatever your circumstance is, we can make it work.
Yeah. Carrellas, thanks so much for being willing to be interviewed today. And the course is How to Create Ecstatic Experiences in Challenging Times, and starting in early June. And folks can find out more about it on Wellcelium's website. So, and if you have any questions, just reach out and be in touch, and I can forward them to Barbara for you. Great. Thanks so much, Barbara.